Welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us today. It is Wednesday, another day out at Notre Dame football fall training camp. Earlier this morning, we got to see the first 25 minutes of practice, give or take a minute or two, I think, and some stretching out there as well on I don't even know how we would describe it. It was a little bit humid this morning, but we had cloud cover and it was breezy. I'm glad that there was cloud cover, let's put it that way, until afterwards when I ended up driving home in a downpour. There was that, but the power stayed on today, so I'm very glad about that.
Yeah, very glad about that one for sure. Well, today was my first day of school, Sean, so
good for you.
Back to pulling double duty and being that guy. And no students today. We don't have students for a week, so we got a lot of prep time, getting ready, things like that. So pretty laid back at the old school, but still had to get up early, had to be there on time, that kind of stuff. I haven't had to do that in a minute. So
first football games next week, right?
Yeah.
Mistaken?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
It's coming, man. It is coming.
Scrimmages are in 2 days, which is wild, and first game is in a week and a half.
Should we? I don't even think we've announced this yet. We should probably go ahead and make the announcement. Speaking of high school football, our friends Chuck Freeby and Angelo DiCarlo, old friends from Sports Michiana, they broadcast high school football games around the area every week. I think this is season 3 that they've been doing it as Sports Michiana on that platform. They are going to join us every week, and we'll get a little taste of what their game is, kind of what's going on in the area in terms of high school football and all that kind of stuff. So looking forward to that, having those guys on with us throughout at least the football season. And I think maybe basketball season continue it as well, as long as they want to keep doing it. So looking forward to that starting next week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. I talked to Otting at practice the other day, and he was giving me a hard time about having to bend to my schedule. So that was
your schedule, their schedule.
Right, because it's just me
on this. Right.
They just show up live, we'd be fine. But
yeah, exactly. Exactly. There's definitely that. Well, we were out at football practice today. Before we got out there, though, there was an announcement from Tommy says local sports. Yes, because we are on a local radio station.
I was just typing that. Yeah.
I'm sorry if we intrude on you for 10 to 15 minutes per week. Once per week. I'm sorry if we do that.
We do have to touch on some local stuff. It just is what it is.
Yes.
And it's fun. I like talking high school sports, man.
Yeah.
To a degree.
Well, yeah, you're out there. You're part of it. We've both been a part of it before. Lots of fun. Saw our old friend Ian Nelson, by the way. I saw him at Martin's. That's right, Big Sweat. Saw him at Martin's this morning after the practice part was over before going back for the media stuff. And he was, I don't know. I saw on social media I think he and his wife and the youngest son still playing at Mishawaka. They did like the senior parents up in the stands and all that kind of stuff. But
his youngest is a senior?
Yeah, I believe so.
Holy moly.
I know. So the big injury, a bigger one. Matty Augustine, Notre Dame announced today, is going to be out for a while. Broke a 5th metatarsal of his right foot, and he was at practice today walking around in the walking boot. Chaz Smith with a broken bone in his right wrist, a scaphoid is what it is officially called. They had injuries preseason practice. They're going to require surgery. Both are going to be, they're expected to be back at some point, but it's going to be a little bit more off in the distance now for both of those guys. So that is the the big news of the day, especially Matty Augustine, with that injury. He was in competition with Sullivan Absher for that right guard spot. I think to what degree, that like we'll talk about that, exactly what that competition was. But in any case, Vince, I mean, you never want to obviously see anyone get injured, and this was a guy who, at the very least, would have been probably at a minimum the backup for the two guard spots going into the season.
Well, and there was talk that he might just be the sixth man across the board. Like if there was even an injury, a tackle, maybe they put him in, things like that. So
Right.
he was etching a name for himself within the depth chart of this Notre Dame offense. I think, it might have been a little bit of a stretch to say that, it was a 50-50 toss up as to who's going to be at right guard, and that competition there. I think you're doing a disservice to Sullivan Absher and what he's been able to do since he's been in that spot.
And I mean, he's been with the ones pretty much every
Right.
time that we've seen anything that resembles like depth chart type stuff out there.
It was his spot to lose. I mean, it was his spot. Matty was, of course, giving him pressure, as all backups do. But I don't think it was as competitive as people wanted you to think, especially now that he's injured and, people are talking about that injury and things of that nature. But I look, this is a blow, right? It's an absolute blow. He was the first man off the bench. He's your sixth man. There's a reason there's a six-man award in basketball, right? It's six man's important, especially to an offensive line.
There's no 12th man in football.
Correct.
A 12th man award. That goes to the fans.
It's a great question. Right? Yeah. Especially if you're a Texas A&M. But yeah, I mean, look, this is a big time injury as far as hurts the depth of Notre Dame. Wasn't a starter. Wasn't going to be a starter. And so I think there's a level of where we need to be as far as outrage and, things like that and worry moving forward.
Jay Williams in the YouTube chat, he has had it up to here. He says, so sick of Notre Dame offensive line injuries. WTF. I mean, let's bump the brakes a little bit. It is football, and guys do get there, get stepped on. I mean, and that's even though we weren't told definitively, likely what happened here. Some big dudes, all of them 300 plus pounds, and you can't avoid broken bones when they're going to happen, unfortunately.
Yeah, when a big guy who's over 300 pounds steps on your ankle, it's probably going to break, and that's probably what ended up happening. There's a lot of stuff going on. They're full pads, they're banging into each other, like the offensive and defensive line. It's like there's a lot going on there. When you anchor down with your leg and then somebody steps on it, like that's trouble. And I think that's what happened. So, nobody's fault. This isn't a conditioning issue or a strength and conditioning issue, that kind of thing.
Right.
This is just you play offensive line at a Division I school and there's big dudes everywhere and you got stepped on. Like it happens. It's
very
football.
Unfortunate. Yep.
It is unfortunate.
Matty Augustine's going to be out for likely a couple of months. Joe says that's a 6-week injury, especially when they do surgery. He'll be back by week 4.
Yeah, okay.
We'll see.
And again,
we'll see what happens.
He's not a starter. So
let's listen to what Joe Rudolph had to say.
Okay.
I asked Joe Rudolph about Matty Augustine, kind of where he was prior to this, how he was doing, competing for that spot at right guard and that kind of thing. So here we got to talk with Notre Dame offensive line coach Joe Rudolph after practice. Here is Matty Augustine's position coach, Joe Rudolph.
Like I really believe Matty's one of the better players on the O-line, one of the better players on this offense. So it hurts a lot to not have him not there. He was in a great competition. I think there's about 7-8 guys that are competing their butts off for an opportunity to earn a starting job or to be the next guy in or be the next tackle in, guard center in. So that's what camp's for, is to get that. And he was doing great. But he'll be back. We'll get him back this year, and he'll be right back where he left off and competing for it.
All right, so there's Joe Rudolph, offensive line coach on Augustine. And, again, Vince, a lot of people have kind of tried to characterize this as Augustine was right there battling for the right guard spot, and now it's Sullivan Absher by default. Did you take that away listening to Joe Rudolph there?
I did not. That is not what I took away from there.
I got a lot of guys are battling for spots.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's battling. So's everybody else trying to battle in there. They all want to play, right?
He said 7 or 8 guys are all battling to be the next man in at guard, the next man in at tackle, that kind of stuff. He said battling for starting positions. Okay, cool. I think we all know there aren't 8 guys battling for starting positions, and so, but 5 of them are because they're the starters. So nothing he said is untrue, but the fact that he deflected that answer to talk about 7 or 8 guys, I think kind of tells the tale as to where things are. Yeah,
I thought so as well. And there's another development that kind of came up after this that we're going to get into here in a minute. But just in terms of the tackles, we don't have any audio on this, but Rudolph did say Styles Prescott is essentially the next tackle in at this point. So that's kind of where that stands now. So obviously you have Gerby Lambert out there at right tackle. You have Will Black at left tackle. That seems pretty firm. And then Styles Prescott would be the next tackle in, if something happened with one of those guys. Now, Anthony Knapp, very set at left guard. I've got no doubt about that based on everything that we've seen and heard. And there was some conversation about him, and Joe Rudolph remains very high on Anthony Knapp. However, what's going on? A little tease for the second hour there with my however. What's going on there in the middle could be another story. Let's start with Ashton Craig, who, of course, is coming back from a knee injury last year. He's been out there. He's been practicing, still not doing team stuff, any of the 11-on-11 stuff. And here is Joe Rudolph's update on Ashton Craig.
Really close. Like he's been cleared. Now it's a matter of increasing the reps, increasing the intensity. So we're trying to be smart with that, and but yet keep acclimating him to it and getting him ready to roll.
All right, keep acclimating him, get him ready to roll. Sounds pretty promising for Ashton Craig.
Look, he's a guy that's been in the program for a long time. He knows what it takes to start at Notre Dame. He knows what it takes to start in Mike Denbrock's offense and playing for Joe Rudolph. So you don't need to rush him back to get him reps and things like that. I mean, he obviously needs to work out the injury and all of those kinds of things and get confidence in his body. And that's what they're doing. They're not rushing him back because they don't need to rush him back. And I think that's the important piece to take away. He's ready to roll, and they're going to bring him back slowly. But I'm sure that they have a timetable. Since he's cleared, he said it, he's cleared.
Right.
He's got a timetable to be back by game 1. That's what that said to me. They're going to acclimate him slowly, get him back where he needs to be, and he'll be ready to roll by Wisconsin.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing everything else. He's going through all the drills. He's doing all that.
Right.
They just don't want to put him out there in any of the team stuff right now.
Yeah, makes sense.
You don't have to. It makes sense. And it's predominantly been Joe Otting taking the number 1 reps out there.
With a guy like him, like I said, who has a ton of experience and things like that, and by experience, I realize he's got 10 games, I think, under his belt as a starter, 10 or 12, something along those lines. But it's over a period of 2 years or 3 years. So it's
right, because he's been injured, unfortunately.
Correct.
And I'm sure that maybe kind of tells them.
Absolutely.
Take it, we want to make sure.
Yes.
100%. We're not rushing anything.
And look, when we get to game week, that's when I anticipate he'd be taking first team reps, primarily. When you get to game, that's all you really need. Get him to game week so he's there to prep for Wisconsin and things like that. You're fine. Through fall camp, work him in slowly. That's fine. Work him in slowly for fall camp. Once you get to game week for Wisconsin, if he's getting all the reps, he's good to go.
I don't disagree with any of that, Vince.
Thank you.
But here's where things get interesting.
It does.
Now. Little shift here.
Something unexpected,
yes.
By the way.
Yes, exactly. Ashton Craig himself spoke with the media after practice. He mentioned that he's been working at guard as well as center. And Rudolph talked about if guard could potentially be an option for Ashton Craig.
When I first got here, he was guard, you know what I mean? And then he ended up, we kind of had a few guys go down in a game on the road at Clemson. We lost 2 centers, I don't know how many plays, maybe 4 or 5 plays. And he went in, and, man, he did a heck of a job and kind of held that position down from that point on. But I think he easily could play guard, center guard, and, one of those cogs that we need to be able to be flexible enough to help us for whatever our group is.
Guard, center, guard, potentially. Vince, what do you think of that?
Well, I mean, obviously it adds some potential creativity to what Joe Rudolph wants to do in the interior. Very interesting because, Joe Otting, obviously we've seen him at guard at times. We've seen him at center. He's obviously primarily been at center since Ashton Craig has been out. But it gives you flexibility. If one is producing better at one position than the other, then, you kind of have it sounds like there's a bit of a three-way battle between center and right guard to a degree if they're giving Ashton Craig reps there. So could we see that happen moving forward? Great question. We won't know, my guess is, until we get that depth chart that comes out
probably
week
so.
1.
Because we're going to get less and less now. We have,
correct.
We have, I think, 2 more partial practice availabilities.
Which based on today's practice and what you guys saw and some different things going on, I would venture to say you're not going to see anything significant moving forward. And, of course, they shut down our availability once game prep starts.
We are seeing the tempo stuff at the start of practice.
True.
So while that's, and we're gonna talk about that in the second segment today, some of the tempo stuff and some other things that we did see at practice. But, so at least depending on when it is, we could see what the first team offense, if there's any changes in the first team offensive line. And let's not forget, we've talked about this before, Joe Rudolph has kind of been, things have happened when you get midway through training camp with Joe Rudolph.
Yeah, he could be a bit of a mad scientist, to his own dismay, or to our dismay, I should say. But
I'll just say, look, didn't really make a whole lot of this last week because obviously we hadn't had the opportunity to talk to Craig and, we obviously hadn't talked to Joe Rudolph either, but here's a quick comment. Mike Denbrock was just asked late last week about Ashton Craig's recovery. Listen to what he said.
Ashton is been and will continue to be a difference maker for us in the middle of our offensive line. We're a better unit when he's in there doing what Ashton's capable of doing. And, whether that's center, guard, wherever that happens to be, he's a good football player, and we need to keep him healthy and get him in there.
He dropped a little on us last week.
We didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I know. We were not picking up on that at all.
They're definitely dropping the breadcrumbs. And if this ends up happening, then you're going to see social media, bust a gut over the whole thing. We'll be like, hey, we told you. We told you this is a possibility.
Exactly. Exactly. There definitely some crumbs pointing in that direction. So, again, while Ashton Craig has not been able to do the 11-on-11 teamwork, he was not able to practice in the spring either, and that's meant more reps for Joe Otting in the meantime, the number 2 center who's played just a little bit. He played last year against USC, and it's given him more opportunities. And so with Craig out, Joe Otting gets those reps, and Rudolph talked about him and his development. Now listen up here.
From spring ball, I thought spring ball, he made a little bit of jump from the season. Now this guy, for the first time he gets in really meaningful reps, game on the line reps, was starting a USC game, and he just freaking stepped up, man. It was cool, man. Guys were pumped for him and excited for him because they know what he puts into it. And then I saw a guy in the spring that got better in the spring. And I think a guy who continued to improve as we got into fall camp because he took advantage of the summer, got stronger, and I think he's competing for it in a big way.
I think he's competing for it in a big way, and he's talking about the starting job at center. Joe Otting that's what Joe Rudolph says. He's competing for it in a big way. That last little dangle right there, the plot now thickens, Vince DiDario, in terms of what's going on with Notre Dame's offensive line.
I hate to say it, but it definitely does. It sounds like there could be some competition there. Like I said, a 3 for 2 kind of a deal there. And look, if that's actually the case, okay, if Joe Otting is playing so well that they're going to take a guy like Ashton Craig, who, by the way, was playing so well that Pat Coogan went to IU to win a national championship. Okay.
Right.
So like
Right.
if that's the case, then I want my 5 best on the field, whatever that 5 is. And if that's what they're doing to experiment to see kind of who fits where and things like that, then okay, cool. Like I'm here for it. It's a very intriguing thing now that
I think so as well.
This is gonna be fun.
It's very intriguing because again, what they've always talked about is we want the 5 best guys out there. So if that means Joe Otting is one of the 5 best, his best fit, at least from what we're seeing and hearing right now, would be center. And so you've got Anthony Knapp. I think basically you've got 3 of the other 4 spots pretty much determined. Knapp at left guard, Will Black at left tackle, Gerby Lambert at right guard. Those all feel
right tackle.
Like there's right tackle. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Gerby Lambert at right tackle. And then the question becomes, if Otting becomes the center, then what happens at right guard? Does Ashton Craig move there? Is it Sullivan Absher? What does that look like? So if Otting would win the center job, is Ashton Craig an option at right guard? Here's Joe Rudolph on that.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's played there. He's done that. He's done that here since I've been here. He was playing guard the week that he ended up having to go in. I think we were on the road at Clemson. Wasn't a very good game for us. Goes in after 2 centers go down in about 3 or 4 plays and plays his butt off, holds down that position. But he was a guard all week, in the prep for that. So he's got the ability to do that if we need him to, if that helps us get the best 5 out there.
If that helps us get the best 5 out there, and that's what they talk about. It just, all cards are on the table, it sounds like, Vince.
Which, that's what fall camp is for. And so I'm glad I'm hearing about this now as opposed to like week 4 or 5 or whatever, pick a week. That's what fall camp is for. Let's have a little competition. I'm here for it.
I absolutely agree with that. If they feel like moving Ashton Craig to right guard gives them the best chance to have the best guy, because we know that they think that Ashton Craig is definitely has been the best center when healthy. But again, Joe Otting, fairly highly touted himself out of Topeka, Kansas, a couple Kansas guys on the roster. Like if he becomes a true viable option at center, and I think my biggest question with Otting, haven't noticed as much of it when we've seen him out there so far at fall camp, but again, we haven't seen a ton of fall camp. Biggest issue with him has just been the snaps. Like all the technical aspects of playing center have looked and felt pretty good just watching, but he's had some of the low snaps and those kind of things. Again, haven't noticed it so far this fall, but it's only been a week right now, and what we've seen has been limited. So that would be, honestly, as of right now, that would be my only question with Otting. Is he going to get the ball to the quarterback consistently?
Here's what I would say based on what I feel like I know about, these 3 guys that are competing. Ashton Craig's going to play. If he's healthy, he's going to play.
Somewhere. He's going to play no matter what.
Yeah, and so the question now is, who is the better of Sullivan Absher and Joe Otting to take the other spot? You know what I mean? So when Ashton Craig's at center, do you have a better line with Sullivan Absher at right guard? Or if you bump Craig to guard, are you now a better offensive line if Joe Otting is at center? That to me, that's what they have to figure out. I don't think it's a question of is Craig going to play? I think that's, if he's healthy, he's in. He's that good of a player. Yeah. It's a question of, okay, which of the other 2 guys gives you the best 5 to give you the best line?
I didn't cut this piece of audio, and I should have now, kind of thinking about it, because I asked Rudolph about what each of those guard tackle combinations has looked like in tandem with each other. Knapp, Will Black on the left side, Sullivan Absher, Gerby Lambert on the right side. And the short answer is he felt pretty good. Like Knapp and Will Black were working really well together on the left side, but there was a little bit of work to do still on the right side with Absher, Lambert, and I'll bring that cut later this week, and we can hear that and kind of dissect it a little bit more. But thinking about this, that could be part of your answer as well. If there are questions with the Lambert Absher duo over there on the right side of the line, and they feel that good about Joe Otting, and they obviously feel good about Ashton Craig and his ability to play either, that could be a potential upgrade, and you see how that works over there on that right side at guard next to Gerby Lambert at tackle.
Yeah, I mean, you could be, if they have faith in Joe Otting at center. I mean, Craig could be an upgrade potentially. I mean, and upgrade that whole right side and kind of even up the right side versus the left side and what we've been talking about with the left side. I think they have options. There's enough talent there that you've got options, and that's kind of the fun part of this whole thing.
I mean, that's the thing like how many like high 4 and 5-star guys can they bring in?
Yeah,
offensive
seriously.
line. They just keep killing it with the offensive line. There's no shortage of talent there. Beezer 12 Washingbeard in the YouTube chat said he's just getting in. What did he miss? I think he caught at least some of the last 5 or 10 minutes. But I guess to recap, the big news of the day, the top story of the day regarding Notre Dame football is offensive lineman Matty Augustine is going to be out for probably at least 6 weeks after breaking a bone in his right foot. So he was a reserve offensive lineman. He is out, but the subplot to that is Ashton Craig, center, working his way back, could potentially end up playing right guard, and Joe Otting, who's been getting a lot of reps because Ashton Craig has not been out there doing the team drills, basically, because he's still coming back from an ACL last year. Joe Otting looking very good at center. So now the question is, does Otting take over at center if he wins that job? And does Ashton Craig potentially move over to right guard? Those are kind of the top stories of the day coming out of Notre Dame training camp.
Love it. I love it. Man, like I say, best 5, go out there, take it. I don't care where you play.
Yeah. Like Joe says, first world problem in the world of college football. I mean, look at what happened 2 years ago when Charles Jagasaw got injured. And, and like you said, Pat Coogan came in and played center, played in a national championship game after Ashton Craig was injured, and then had to go to Indiana to win a national championship because of the talent of Ashton Craig. And, unfortunately, it's been the only thing holding Craig back is just being able to stay healthy for an entire season.
Exactly. Yeah. People have forgotten how good he is just because he hasn't been out there. And
he might be in the NFL right now if he hadn't been in each of the last 2 years.
That's a great point, because somebody asked if this is his 5th year, and it is his 5th year. And I don't know that he goes 5 years if he remains healthy. I think he is probably at a training camp someplace.
Yeah. And in terms of his, potential pro future, I think the ability to play both of those positions, if he can play guard, only helps him as well.
It's a great point. That's a great point. Yeah, just adds to his flexibility, his positional flexibility.
All right, so those are the top stories regarding Notre Dame's offensive line at a fall training camp today. We got a little bit of a practice viewing this morning, first 25 minutes plus some stretching. Matty Augustine out for a while with a broken foot, and now Joe Otting, Ashton Craig, Sullivan Absher, basically 3 guys for 2 spots on that offensive line. That kind of sounds like where things are shaping up right now as they head into the second week of fall training camp over at Notre Dame. We'll take a time out. When we come back, we'll talk about kind of some of the things seen and heard at training camp this morning in the small practice window that we got to see. They did run some tempo offense once again at the beginning of practice, first and second teams out there, but kind of a mixed bag of some guys we saw out there in some different spots. And one significant guy was not at practice today. So we'll talk about that when we return. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com continues. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, talking a lot of Notre Dame offensive line in the first segment of the show today after some practice viewing this morning and talking to Notre Dame offensive line coach Joe Rudolph after practice today. I have to say, Vince, we went out there. The first few days that we were out at practice last week, they started everything outside on the outdoor fields, which is kind of different.
Yeah.
This morning, they started in the indoor for the first time we've been out there. And they showed Michael Jordan highlights on the indoor. They were like, and it was like the whole time they were warming up, it was all Michael Jordan stuff. I have to tell you, and talking to a few people, it was a little distracting. It was like, you're trying to watch the see who's out there on the field and all that kind of stuff warming up. And it's like your eyes want to just go to the big video board to watch all the cool vintage Michael Jordan highlights.
I mean, I look at it a different way. I mean, it entertains me while we're watching stretch. Like that's usually fairly boring. But you throw a little MJ highlights in there, his airness, gracing the screen at the indoor practice facility at Notre Dame is pretty cool. So I don't know if that's like a thing that they're doing, just showing like just greatness personified.
I think that was kind of the idea.
Yeah.
They were kind of playing into that a little bit.
I love it.
Tommy says, any baseball? No, just Michael Jordan. That was it.
That's all you need.
There were no baseball or any other highlights out there. Casey in the YouTube asks if Cam Heron got moved to guard, and Justin says, who is hiking it high in the Teddy Gerard clips? And as of right now, Cam Heron is the number 3 center. But which means like for the 11-on-11 stuff, he's the number 2 center because again, right. Ashton Craig has not been out there. So whenever they do team stuff, it has been Joe Otting at number 1 and Cam Heron at number 2. Now, because he's the number 3 center, probably a good chance that he's taking some reps at guard. But again, we're not out there the whole practice. We've only been out there the first 25 minutes the last 3 times we've been out there. So probably a good chance he's repping some guard, just like Ashton Craig has been repping some guard.
Right. I don't think Otting is snapping to the incoming freshman, at least not at this point. So it was probably Heron that was snapping to Teddy Gerard.
Right. And it is typically, I want to make sure I get that because, based on what we saw in the spring, Joe Otting snaps. Like if they were going to be low, it was Joe Otting with the low snaps, and Cam Heron had the high snaps typically. So that's like each of them, had like his own different thing. Oh, I get what Tommy is saying now because Jordan played baseball. No, it was all basically like vintage Chicago Bulls championship, like big clutch moments.
Yeah,
for Michael Jordan. They didn't care about his single, for. Yeah.
In the minors,
the Smokies or whatever it was.
Whoa. Smokies are the Cubs.
That's right.
Down.
That's right. Who was
the Barons, I believe is what they
were.
The
Barons. There you go.
Yeah. And they also didn't show any like Wizards, quote unquote highlights.
No, there were no Wizards.
Right.
Like,
so no baseball.
Early stuff too.
Right.
Like, the Bulls win their first championship.
Okay. Yeah.
Like it was some of the stuff we've seen a million times, the shot against Utah and the shot against Cleveland and all different. It was just a fun trip down memory lane.
I love it.
I
love it. I wish they did that more often.
Yeah. Someone who was not there today for the second straight time the media has been out there. The last time we were out there was Saturday morning.
Yep.
So we were out there again this morning. Quarterback Blake Hebert missed practice again today. A personal matter, according to what we were told. Again, he wasn't there Saturday. Not there today, Wednesday. They've had practices the last few days as well.
Sure.
I don't think we've seen any Blake Hebert highlights the last couple of days.
Well, this is practice number 6, and we were at 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And so 4 and 5 took place, obviously, without – it's not like, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody sees it.
Good math, Vince.
But we did not see 4 and 5. We know there was practice. So I assume, because he wasn't there practice 3, so 3, 4, 5, 6 – he has missed for whatever reason, personal reasons.
Don't know why.
So can you go ahead and speculate, everyone out there, But no, he hasn't been there. So haven't been able to see him compete for that backup job, at least the last couple times we've been there.
Correct. We did get to see some quarterbacks out there, and it was when they came out to do the tempo, it was who you would expect. C.J. Carr with the first team, as the first team quarterback. Noah Grubbs, today was his day to get number twos. And I mean, if like Teddy Gerard's obviously getting more snaps out there as well.
Yeah.
And if Blake Ebert's been gone for at least 4 days now?
Yeah.
Just counted. So it's a lot more snaps for Teddy Gerard.
He's, Teddy Gerard's, getting the highlights from Notre Dame social media here today, I believe, as well. And so, he never a doubt whether he could spin it in a one-on-one situation. So he's definitely doing his due diligence on that one. So, it's hard to glean what he's able to do in those highlight videos. I will say that. It's all zoomed in and you can't really see anything else that's going on. And
right.
Is it team? Is it just one-on-ones? Like all these different things. Hard to tell.
Just like the interception by Christian Gray the other day. We have no idea who threw that interception.
Correct. 100%. Yes, 100%. So, again, cool highlights. We knew he could throw the football. Still has, a long delivery, but that's who he's going to be. Just needs to be a little sped up a little bit is all. But yeah, I mean, he's competing out there. He's been out there every day competing.
Well, and, look, just like Decaf is saying in the YouTube chat, there's going to be a lot of speculation as long as Hebert is not out there and we don't know exactly what's going on. People are going to say,
oh, sure.
The transfer portal. There's
we're encouraging the speculation, everybody. We're encouraging it. Speculate
away. Right. The only thing I'd say to that is there's no benefit in him like leaving and doing that right now because you can't enter the portal until December anyway. And you're in a 5-for-5 situation. So you're not preserving a year of eligibility. Like none of the old stuff.
Right.
matters. Like he is like from his own personal development. He's better off being on, whatever. Like he's better off being on the roster and going through practices with Notre Dame this year, whether he's the number 2, the number 3, or whatever it happens to be. He's better off going through practice and
absolutely
getting reps this year for his own personal growth and development.
100%.
There's no benefit to leaving now potentially, and we're not saying that he is, but people are going to start
putting that out there
because he's missed a few practices and nobody knows exactly what's going on.
Look, bitten by the party animal is very worried about what people are going to think about the backup quarterback position and all these different things. Look, Hebert's not the backup. There's a competition for the backup position. They've all been rotating with the 2s, 3s, and so on. So there is no backup. And look, if I'm competing for a position, no matter what it is, if I'm not with the team for whatever reason, we don't know why, if I'm not with the team for 4 straight practices, potentially plus, that's going to hurt my competition. Like it will. It just hurts your competition level. And so, especially with the talent that these 2 other guys have. So, we'll see what happens when and if he returns and what that looks like and where he's at.
Obviously, goes without saying, obviously, we do hope everything is okay.
Of course.
It's nothing, bigger that, because we just don't know right now. It's just being called a personal matter. So.
Absolutely. All right. We would never wish anything negative on any kid's life. So we hope that's not the case. But he hasn't been there the last couple of times we've been there. So, you know, and we're told personal issues. So we'll see what happens. But it's not good for him not to be, just from a football standpoint alone, it's not good to miss 4 practices if you're competing for a position. That's all I'm saying.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. This seemed like to me, and again, we were only out there for the first 4 periods and stretching. So we got to see him do tempo drill, which means that it was 11 on 11, first team offense versus first team defense. And I should probably use air quotes because just watching this felt like, especially for the receivers and maybe even defensive backs, but more so with the receivers, like it felt like potentially a load management day because like you didn't have Micah Gilbert out there. It didn't look like Jaden Greathouse was like, with the tempo. You had Jerome Bettis Jr. in there. You had Matt Jeffrey coming in with the ones as well. Now Jeffrey has had a a nice first week of camp based on everything that we've seen and heard. But then you had Devin Fitzgerald with the number 2 units. I think that's the first time we definitively seen him line up with the number 2s. Obviously, there have been, some highlights and stuff like that from practice, but no Micah Gilbert out there. That's the first time we've seen him not with the first team. But what happened the period after the tempo drill, the quarterbacks went to the far field like they usually do to start doing some of their warm-ups. But for the first time, instead of just, like throwing to each other, throwing to Gino Gaduli or maybe, one of the lower guys on the totem pole on the staff out there catching passes, Jaden Greathouse and Micah Gilbert went to that field, and they were over there with the 3 quarterbacks who were there, CJ Carr, Noah Grubbs, and Teddy Gerard. And I'll go ahead and throw this up here on the YouTube. We'll try our best to do a little radio play-by-play as well, I guess, as we put this up, for the radio audience. But I'll put the video up. And, of course, if you're listening right now and you're curious about what it looks like, you can always go to either the Irish Breakdown or Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel and see it. And thought that I had muted that. I'm going to go ahead and mute it, and I'm going to put it up on full screen as well. So there's Micah Gilbert, and here is CJ Carr throwing a fade and a nice leaping catch by Jaden Greathouse in the back corner of the end zone. Take note of what Jaden Greathouse looks like. For some reason, I must have put the wrong video in there. I thought I had a...
Oh. Looks like Sean just pulled himself completely out of the show, and so I believe he'll be coming back any second. Oh, there he is.
Kicked myself out.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
I thought that I had a longer version of this where they were throwing in both corners of the end zone, but I've only got one of the short ones here, it looks like, for some reason. But I'll just go ahead and put it up there once again. There's Micah Gilbert with his.
I like that leap.
Yeah.
High point in the ball, good hands, good body control.
And notable Jaden Greathouse. And I thought, look at Jaden Greathouse.
Yeah.
For all you Jaden Greathouse fans. And, I know that there's at least one. He may or may not be here. I don't think he is tonight, but I'll just play this again. Have we talked about how great Jaden Greathouse looks physically, Vince?
Oh, man. Yes, we have.
Have we talked enough about how great Jaden Greathouse looks physically? Just look at this.
No, he looks fantastic. Doesn't look like he's favoring a hamstring or anything else. I mean, able to high point the ball. I mean, he physically looks as the best that he's ever looked, just from a getting off the bus standpoint. And then obviously what he's able to do, jumping in the air, catching the football, all those things. So those were, you sent me those videos this afternoon. And I was like, okay, okay. And I think it makes a ton of sense, kind of the way you laid it out. They weren't really a part of the tempo drill that they did first. And then they kind of went over and did like a 3/4 speed, just receiving the ball from CJ Carr a little bit at both corners of the end zone. It's a load management situation. They didn't demote both of those guys overnight.
They talked remember Marcus Freeman said going into camp that there would be a little bit of a load management situation with Jaden Greathouse, just managing, his reps to make sure that they're not putting too much. And you look at him doing that, just some light work, go up, make a couple high point catches and that kind of thing on those fades into the end zone. You're still out there doing something, but neither one of those guys out there with team stuff. And then Quincy Porter also was he didn't do individual drills today. He was doing some one-on-one stuff with Lauren Lando, the strength coach, on the indoor field with his, not wearing his helmet and that kind of thing. And, again, he's been limited anyway. So it just felt like, okay, you're a week in right now, and you just again, felt like a load management day for these guys, not putting too much on them, just some light work for them because you're really deep at the wide receiver position,
right?
As we've talked about, because, I don't remember seeing a whole lot of Jordan Faison today either in the time that we were out there.
Well, and again, to your point about them being deep, you can sit the top guys, at least the top guys at the moment, right? You can sit those guys for a day. And look, they're still going to do individual stuff. They're still going to do drills and things, but you can have them sit out of some of the team stuff and allow some of these younger guys to get reps with the first team, which is huge. Mike Denbrock said very clearly he's looking for guys to step up and force them set their way onto the field. Okay, well, if that's the case, giving them some run with the first team with CJ Carr, throwing them the football, that's how you get an opportunity to show that you deserve to be on the field.
And this is something we didn't get to this cut yesterday, but I'll go ahead and use it since we're kind of on the subject right now. Gino Guidugli, the quarterback's coach, when we got to talk to him over the weekend, he talked about, you do have all these other guys, and he talked about CJ Carr being able to get some reps with some of these other guys in practice.
Timing's important, and I think we did a good job of that. And CJ's very cognizant, whether it's Ian Premer at tight end or it's Devin Fitzgerald at receiver or the guys that are right on the brink of potentially playing. Like, he's going to make sure when we're in routes versus air, he's going to steal some reps. When we're an individual, he's going to steal some reps, and we can gather timing that way without necessarily putting him in with the twos to get timing with a receiver that he may need timing with or haven't got as much timing with. Yeah.
Again, a little bit of a breadcrumb there.
I know.
But he mentioned specifically Ian Premer and Devin Fitzgerald, two guys, he said, on the cusp of being in there.
It's interesting that those are the names that he came up with first. And as a coach, look, most position coaches, and he's obviously a position coach, most position coaches aren't going to temper their words a whole lot when just being asked a simple question like that. They're going to come up with the players that they have been dealing with, and that their guys have, in his case, the guys that his guys have been throwing to, and coming up with those two names. I don't think that was an accident. I don't think he's trying to be coy. I think those are the guys that are kind of right there. So we're reading into some words, I guess, that some of the coaches are saying, but I don't think we're reading too far.
But again, I think they want to get when you look at who was and who wasn't doing some of that main stuff today, the fact that Fitzgerald was in there with the twos and you had Jerome Bettis up with the number ones today.
Right.
Like, I feel, okay, you give some of these veterans a lighter day and you let some of these younger receivers move up a slot or two on the depth chart to have more opportunities to work with Carr or, Grubbs, whoever it happens to be, to give them opportunities in those, 1v1 type situations.
And of course, it doesn't surprise me in any way, but I love the fact that, you've got CJ Carr who knows who, he needs to get timing with and, all of those things. And he makes sure that it happens. It doesn't matter how it happens, but he makes sure that it does happen. I think that says a lot too about his leadership and also about his preparation for game one and beyond.
Right.
He doesn't want to be thrown any surprises of guys that run into the huddle or run onto the field while he's on. Is like, oh crap. Well, I don't have any, I'm not going to throw to him because I've never thrown the ball to this guy, so he's doing his due diligence as well to make those guys feel comfortable, but also to make himself feel comfortable with the timing.
Casey's asking any info on Finley. I mean, nothing more. Like I'd say the most significant stuff we've seen from him has really just popped up in some of the social media videos that Fighting Irish Media has put out over the last couple of days. That's, because again, we have one full practice on day one and three, like the last two practices that we've been to when they've done the 11 versus 11 tempo offense stuff at the beginning. That's the most significant stuff that we've seen really, beyond day one. And we haven't seen Finley in those situations yet.
Yeah, we're again with the 25-minute window that includes stretching. We're only going to be able to see so much and take so much out of it. We actually, I think, based on the way our show has gone so far, I think we get more out of talking to the coaches afterwards than maybe what we see with our own eyes, to be perfectly honest with you. And so
for sure,
we'll get more of an idea when the depth chart comes out, the week prior to Wisconsin. And then obviously when we see this team play, we're going to get more of an idea of where things are and who's in the rotation and all of those things. So, it's fun to speculate because there's a lot of talent on this team. It's deep. at the wide receiver position specifically. That's what we're talking about. So it's kind of fun to speculate where these guys might be falling and trying to ascertain what these coaches are trying to say. And, are they dropping breadcrumbs and, things like that. I think it's fun. I think it's exciting.
No, I know. And it's, it's again, like you got to keep your ears open because they're leaving you little trails out there. You just got to listen to what it is. So now it's like, now I got to go back and listen to all these interviews that we've done with all these coaches and see if we've missed anything after all this. All right. So again, the top news of today from Notre Dame football fall training camp, backup or reserve quarterback Blake Hebert not at practice again today for what Notre Dame termed personal reasons. He was not there Saturday, the last time the media was at practice as well. So, we're talking about potentially 4 practices that Blake Hebert has not been there. And again, we hope everything is all right with him, and we will, keep an eye on what's going on there. And then Matty Augustine, offensive lineman with a broken foot. Chaz Smith, defensive back with a broken wrist. Both of those guys are going to be out for several weeks. And with Matty Augustine out, we talked earlier in this hour about the fact that now Ashton Craig, coming back from an injury of his own, may have a future at right guard, just depending on what happens with backup center Joe Otting. Joe Rudolph saying that if Joe Otting proves himself to be one of the top 5 offensive linemen, you could see Otting at center and potentially Ashton Craig moving to guard. So those are some things that we'll be keeping an eye on as fall camp continues. Week 1 of training camp wrapping up, and we're rolling now into week 2 of camp. Coming up in the second hour, it's rapid fire. People are just lining up, Vince, to give Notre Dame money. We will talk about that in rapid fire in hour number 2, that and more. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. It's hour 2. Sean Stiers, Vince D'Addario, rapid fire time. We've got plenty to talk about in the next 30 minutes or so before we give way to South Bend Cubs baseball here on the old rockin' radio station. More money, more money. More money, Vince.
Dude.
Notre Dame announced Bob Hinton has made a $20 million gift to name the Notre Dame Stadium North Tunnel and Media Room. Hinton already endows Notre Dame's defensive coordinator position. $20 million.
Man.
The tunnel and the media room, Vince.
Let me tell you. Listen, the fact that, and I don't remember how much it was for when he did the defensive coordinator endowment, but it was healthy at that point.
Uh-huh.
And then, okay, you name the media room. Okay, that's pretty cool, whatever. Okay. But the tunnel, that's hallowed ground, man.
It is. It's
that's where Notre Dame and Miami squared off. That's, that's hallowed ground. And the fact that he was like, no, I got this, 20 mil. I want the tunnel. That is putting your money where your mouth is right there, man. I can't even fathom what it would be like to just be like, man, you know what? I'd love to have my name on the tunnel at Notre Dame Stadium. How much would that be? 20 mil? Here you go. No problem.
I mean, will they get anything for the visitor tunnel? You think maybe if Purdue shelled out like $5 million, they could bring their big dumb drum through the tunnel when they go?
Big dumb drum.
Widen it for them by any chance?
Oh, that's hard. That goes hard. That's funny. I like that a lot. I like that one a lot.
I don't know. It feels like there are a lot of other opportunities for naming rights inside the stadium. Still, you've got all these different gates. The Divine Gate, the Lou Holtz Gate, the Rocky Gate. It feels like you could probably, get an underwriting for each one of those. I'm just using the Chris Zorich Lou Holtz Gate, for example. If Chris wants to dole out a little extra cash. I think the only thing in that north side of the stadium that's not named right now is the restroom that's right next to the media room. Because you got the Chivarelli Lounge on the other side, and now you got the Bob Hinton.
That's true.
Tunnel. You got the Bob Hinton media room. Because
there's an entrance to the locker room at that point. Is the locker room endowed by anybody yet?
I don't think so.
See, that's a big one too.
Because like I said, Chivarelli has the
player lounge, the former media room, media room.
Yeah. DK says the Vince D'Addario towel hook.
That sounds about right. That's about what I could afford, by the way.
Chi-Town says the Stiers family visitors tunnel. That's
there you go.
That's not bad. And Father David says you could name the restroom after a famous Southern Cal player.
Now we're
talking. O.J. Simpson outhouse, basically.
Yes.
That's
now you're talking. And somebody said, write-offs. Yeah, you can write off that money, but you still have to have it to give away.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody always says, "Oh, who cares how much money they're spending? They can write it off."
Okay, Kramer.
It's still money out of your pocket, or out of your business, or whatever the case may be. That's still $20 million.
Yeah. You can write it off. You can write it off, but you're not getting all of that back.
Man.
So. Yeah, and if you've got $20 million to give away, that just kind of
that tells
how much you have the stack that you've got to be
correct,
right?
Correct. I got nothing to give away, let alone 20 mil.
I know.
Man,
what would $100? What would the $100 get me naming rights to?
Probably the towel hook. That's about what you're gonna get. Probably be more expensive than that.
The roll of toilet paper in the restroom.
That's exactly right.
So big news. I mean,
That's
again,
massive.
the revenue streams that are coming in right now, between the deal that they did with SoFi, obviously, and then you get $20 million just to put, a name, a very significant Hinton, by the way, the owner of Hinton Transportation Investments, a collection of operating companies serving the transportation industry. He's a Notre Dame alum and family-owned business, and it's one that's obviously done very well. So
yeah, absolutely. Good for him.
Kudos all around for the naming rights to the tunnel.
And it just shows you Notre Dame's not hurting for money, man. Like, all they got to do is pick up the phone. Like, hey, we need 20 mil. What do you want your name on?
Yeah, I mean, just look at the building that stands right across from the practice facility.
Right.
Like, and of course they did the ceremony for this inside the building, so
yeah,
doing very well.
Very well.
By the way, did you enjoy all the USC people trying to throw shade at Notre Dame about the facilities?
Oh, it's hilarious.
Last week when all this happened.
Hilarious.
I saw someone, like the video that Notre Dame put out, they took like still screenshots of like 3 hallways, like the 3 worst basically frames of the whole 4.5, whatever minute video.
Oh, it was like a 5-minute video. Yeah.
Trying to say, oh, look how crappy this is, Okay.
Okay. Got it.
All right. Gotcha.
Whatever helps you sleep at night over there in Southern Cal.
Exactly. Fill in the blank. Stephen A. Smith talking to the Notre Dame football team in the new facility yesterday is blank.
It's curious. I'll keep it curious. I know there's a lot of haters out there for ESPN and the talking heads that come from ESPN. And look, I will be the first one to admit I do not agree with probably most of what Stephen A. Smith says. But it's just interesting. Like, he doesn't have a connection to Notre Dame, obviously, and I'm curious as to how that came about and why he was there. But he's a name; people know who he is. I don't know what he had to say to the team or whatever. It's curious. I'm very curious how it all came about.
Apparently there was some Q&A. Like, we did ask, came up with some of the players that we got to talk to today. Neither one of them was overly revelatory from, what I got to hear from some of their responses. And that was Bryce Young and Gerby Lambert. Lambert elaborated a little bit more. There was some Q&A. Like, he took questions from the players and stuff, like that about, how he got to where he is and, like kind of, climbing the ladder and, some different things like that. So it wasn't just him getting up there and doing his thing,
Sure.
But look, he's very significant. Anyone of that age, college age, and playing at that level, who Stephen A. Smith is because he has been one of the more prominent names on ESPN for over a decade. I don't even know how long he's been doing it now, but he's one of the the 2 premier names, I think, on there. Him and McAfee are the 2 biggest daily faces that you have on that network. And, look, he gets paid to give opinions, and not every opinion that Stephen A. Smith gives is going to be flattering to everyone that he's got to give it on. He's had verbal jousts with a lot of different prominent people, whether it's Michael Wilbon, was something that came up last week, like a media on media type thing. He's obviously had beef with LeBron before and a lot of other people as well. So Marcus Freeman, when they did the New York media blitz, what's that been? Like 3 weeks ago, about a month
something
ago
like that, a month ago.
Like, he did go on, I believe it was First Take that he went on. He was on when they were doing the Fan Fest out there, or Fanatics Fest or whatever. And I guess when he did the show, he talked about being on with Stephen A. Smith during that. I didn't actually happen to see any of it. I think I saw a screenshot or something. So they obviously had some face-to-face time, and I wonder if something just kind of came out of that. Like Stephen A. was like, hey, I'd like to come out and, see the place. And I think they're going to have a lot of celebrity visits after that, facilities video.
That's a good point.
Well, with people seeing that.
No, that's a really good point. And look, he's successful. He's a minority. There's a lot of boxes that he checks to come speak to a team about what they can do with their future. I think that makes a lot of sense. But look, and people are like, oh, they need to do more, bring more people in who are successful. Believe me, they bring plenty of people who are successful in to talk to the team. It's just not publicized.
Right.
Like, they just don't put it out on social media. When you bring in Stephen A. Smith, you put it out on social media because he's a social media personality. But like, they bring in all kinds of successful people to talk to the team. And most colleges do that, by the way. Like, even like, I've got my kids' calendar right here. Like, they have a couple of talks during fall camp from people who are successful who come back to talk to the team and, things like that. it's a very common practice. It just, when a guy like Stephen A. Smith comes in with the personality that he has, it gets put out there.
Yeah, you don't hear everyone that
right
comes there.
Yeah, exactly.
There have been plenty of others who have been over there. And again, like, you may not like him, but Stephen A. is a very prominent name, and
all those kids know who he is.
There's some cachet. That's right, because, and this is all due respect to former players. This is not shade by any means, but there are probably a lot of former players who have come through. I'll just use this as an example. Again, this is no disrespect to Justin Tuck, but Justin's been retired for like at least 10 years now at this point, if not even more. And like, you and I know him from the great Notre Dame career he had, but we're going on 25 years at this point since Justin played at Notre Dame. And, we know that he won a couple of Super Bowls, but guys who are 18 right now probably don't have that same name recognition of Justin Tuck, but they do have it with Stephen A. Smith.
Sure. And he's been, and Justin Tuck has been super successful outside of football as well. Went to the Wharton School of Business, I believe, after football, is super successful, which is awesome. And I'm sure that guys like that have come back to talk to the team. Again, it just doesn't get the publicity that someone like Stephen A. Smith does. That's
because it's a big name in media. It's a big name on ESPN.
Right.
That's right.
100%.
Yeah. It's cool either way. Like, you still want
absolutely
from guys like that who have played at Notre Dame, because especially when a guy like Tuck, he gets up there and talks, and, you kind of get his resume, one of the all-time great sack artists in Notre Dame history, and a 2-time Super Bowl champion, and with the Giants and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's a lot there, whether it's him or any other player. In either case, it's cool that a prominent figure, again, you might not like him, but it's very cool, I think, that a prominent guy like Stephen A. Smith has that kind of interest in the program. So he'll still reserve the right to say whatever he wants about Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame and anything else,
100%.
That's obviously who he is. Okay, so Notre Dame running backs coach Ja'Juan Seider was asked recently about Aeneas Williams' receiving skills. Here is what Seider had to say.
Start with confidence, right? He done it in a big game. Hell, I was on the other side of the sideline and saw him make one of the biggest catches ever, sent my ass home crying. So you've seen it, right? You've seen it over and over. And then, there was moments last year he made those plays, over-the-shoulder catch versus Stanford. Like, that's what you love about him, because there's no moment too big for him. Like, he may be the most confident kid I've ever been around. That's rare. And like, for all of us, it's no different. We see guys, like even coaches, get in front of the room and speak like that first time. Like, there's some moments, like there's some confidence moments till you get going. Like, from the first get-go, he's already confident. And those the traits you look for, because game on the line, I know I can count on that kid in that situation. Why? Because he has proven it already. So, I know that's whatever, right? But it's the truth.
All right, there's Ja'Juan Seider, running back coach on Irish running back Ja'Juan Seider. So, Vince, we will be saying blank about Aeneas Williams at the end of this season.
We will be saying that he holds the receiving record for running backs by the end of the season. I
like that.
I do think that. Yeah, you've got a quarterback, obviously, that can get him the football, in tight places, down the field, all of those things. I think you've got that going on. To Ja'Juan Seider's point, very confident in Aeneas Williams. He's going to be on the field during third down situations. Look, we've seen him catch the football both at practice and in games. He looks like a receiver when the ball's in the air. I mean, especially with the over-the-shoulder catches. I mean, he's very talented. He runs through the ball. He's able to bend his back to allow the ball a bigger space to come down into his hands. He just does a really, really good job. And so you want him on the field. And so I think he's going to be on the field in big moments. And I just think that that's going to translate into some impressive numbers for Aeneas Williams when it's all said and done.
No, you're right. I mean, the question was about his receiving skills, but I think the answer that Ja'Juan Seider gave revealed a whole lot more, because it starts with confidence, the C word that you want. Like
Absolutely.
the bad C word is consistency. Confidence is the C word that you want to hear. And it starts with that, because I think what we're going to be saying about him at the end of the year is, and I do like your answer, it's not quite like he's going to pick up where Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price left off, but it's like
right
next tier down, whatever that is. Like, this is a guy who's going to go out and show that he's just been waiting for his time, that the talent has always been there. The confidence has always been there. The skill has always been there. It's just that he's had two significant dudes in front of him. Like, I'll make a reference here that might go over about a million different heads, but like, I think back to Kevin Mitchell. You might remember, like, he made his name for himself as a member of the San Francisco Giants. He was an MVP with the San Francisco Giants, outfielder back in the 1980s. Well, in 1986, Kevin Mitchell was a rookie with the New York Mets, who was playing for them, on a World Series team, and he wasn't starting. He was like a pinch hitter coming off the bench. Well, in the biggest situation, Kevin Mitchell came up and was part of the Mets, like the Buckner game, that ended up being Mookie Wilson and Bill Buckner, a little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Like, everybody knows that about how the Mets ultimately ended up winning. But Kevin Mitchell, as a pinch hitter in that inning, was a big part of the rally that kept the inning going. He scored the run right before Ray Knight scored the game-winning run, So, like, that's kind of the analogy that I see, is like Kevin Mitchell did his job in that moment, and then a couple years later, he was an MVP with a different team in the San Francisco Giants. Aeneas Williams, significant contributor in that playoff run, that wheel route and that great catch.
Oh, yeah.
We talked about, like, not an easy catch that he made, and then obviously the run on the next play after that. It's just like, this is a guy who has always had the skill. He's just been waiting for his moment. His moment is here. And again, it's not necessarily going to look like the two significant dudes who just left in front of him, but he's going to end up leaving his mark, and it's going to be pretty significant. Like, right at, and he's going to make his mark this year. I'm confident in that. I know he's confident in that.
So I said my piece on that before I looked up how many yards that would take, by the way.
Okay.
And if, let's say they play 14 games, just throwing that out there.
Okay.
He would have to average 31.5 yards a game. That's pretty doable, man.
Not impossible. That's still a, like, for a running
it's healthy.
back, it's still a significant chunk. So
it's
we're
healthy.
About, so 14, that's what, 400 and some yards?
442.
442?
Yeah. So that's a lot. Don't get me wrong. But if anybody's going to break it, I feel like it's going to be him. I mean, if you look at the history, what would you say modern time would be, like 1960 and beyond?
I'd even say, maybe 60s, 70s, kind of in that range.
So the leader is Bob Godot, 1968, 442 yards. Jim Morse in 1956 has the exact same amount of yards, which is random, but 17 less receptions. So he was just pumping off big time numbers. He's also number 3 at 424 yards. So if you go to the more recent, so 2006, Darius Walker, 391 yards on 56 receptions.
Okay.
So
56 is a lot. I don't know.
56 is a lot. And then the next one down from him is Theo Riddick, 36 receptions for 370 yards. So
I could see him very comfortably in that range.
100%. Yeah. So, we'll see what happens. He could rip off a couple screen passes, and just, you have a game or two that are just kind of out there a little bit, and get the average going. We'll see what happens.
All right. So 442 is the
442
record
is the number
for a Notre Dame running back.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Ira Shytown is asking, do you think Williams can have 2,000 total yards this season? No,
that's too much.
I think my max, again, like, a playoff run changes things because then you're adding, games and numbers. But, like, most of my, like, when I think about it, I'm thinking about it as a 12, 13 game season because obviously, like even in the old, like the bowl game would still count kind of thing. Like it feels like between 16 and 1,700 yards would be kind of my ceiling for him. Again, a long playoff run changes everything, but just like thinking about 13 games, where would you put him?
1,500, I guess, would be my number. Is a max.
Yeah,
I think that's a lot.
That's
15.
what I'm saying. Like in that 16-ish 100 yards would be my ceiling, I think.
Yeah. The funny part is I was looking at some of the averages here. Darius Walker, to get his 391 yards, averaged 7 yards per reception. And Jim Morse, to get his 442, averaged 22 yards a reception. A little different time back then.
That makes sense. Yeah, and I mean, like he may have been a running back, but that was still really pre-evolution of the modern receiver in that, like 50s and 60s kind of era. Right. So I'll have to make note of that, and we can, because I've got like a list of some other stuff.
Oh, okay.
Like season prediction.
I think it's doable. I mean, some things are going to have to go his way. Obviously, he's got the talent to make it happen. I will say that. Yeah,
absolutely. He's going to be a significant part of the offense.
Yes, 100%, both on the ground and in the air. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Now, is it Morris or Morse? Chi-Town is saying Jim Morris was a flanker.
Morse.
Okay, that's what I thought you were saying. Morse. Yeah, yep. So different.
Morse. 1955 and 1956.
Not Morris, just Morse. Like
Morse code. Yeah, exactly.
Bruce Feldman from The Athletic released his annual Freaks list this week, Vince. Notre Dame has 4 players who made the list. Defensive tackle Francis Brew is the highest rated at number 24, followed by defensive end Bryce Young at 50. Right guard Anthony Knapp is 63, and defensive tackle Elijah Hughes comes in at number 72 on Feldman's freak list. Does the fact that 4 Irish players who made this list are all linemen say anything to you?
What it says to me is I don't know what the criteria to be a freak is. Like
it's basically just, like all this testing, like
okay. I get, Bryce Young.
I could have put the rundown, like his little synopsis for all of them. But, like here's an example for Francis Brew. He squatted 685, benched 475, a vertical jump of 33, and that was all at 280 pounds when he was still at Pittsburgh. He's now benching 500 pounds, and he's got a vertical of 38 and a half inches and a broad jump of 10.3. So it's like that kind of.
Okay, so it's measurables. Like,
yeah, it's all measurable.
Okay.
Combine kind of stuff. But,
it means Notre Dame has some athletic linemen is what that means then. If that's the criteria for the freaks list, and they've got some dudes that they're going to show up on NFL scouting combine and all that kind of the underwear Olympics. They're gonna see some gold medals in the underwear Olympics there, Sean.
We very well may. I just think that it means that Notre Dame is going to get down in the trenches this season.
Yeah.
When you look at the fact you got 3 defensive linemen on this list, and then you've got Anthony Knapp as well. And I didn't even play the best cut from Joe Rudolph in the first part of the show today. Again, I'm going to save that. There was a cut that Joe Rudolph had specific to Anthony Knapp that I think we'll use probably either tomorrow or on Friday's show. I haven't decided which.
Nice.
Yet, but it was very colorful, and I think it was very descriptive. But I think that when you look at the kind of testing that these guys, you need the most physical guys down in the trenches. And I like you talked about underwear Olympics. And I know that a lot of times, how high an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman jumps is fairly irrelevant, just in terms of how many times is he going to actually have to jump off the ground. But it also goes to the explosiveness that he has, coming off the line and the kind of physicality that he has coming off the line. And I think that the fact that we're talking about 4 guys who are down on the line type players who are in that category. Marcus Freeman's always talked about offensive, defensive line driven program. And I think that it's significant from that aspect. I think that I don't want to get too far ahead because, again, I was so high on the offensive line specifically last year, and it just never panned out to the level that we thought it was going to. But it just feels like this is all lining up to be very good news for Notre Dame this season.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Fill in the blank. Colorado held an open practice for fans and reporters yesterday. First time Deion Sanders has done that in his time as head coach. Here's the kicker. It's blank that the stipulation for the open practice was no phones allowed inside, and reporters were not allowed to report on anything they observed at practice.
Okay. I understand the no phone policy. I get it. That I actually don't have a problem with that per se. Like, just keep them in your pockets. Don't have them out because he doesn't want video. Okay, cool. I get that part. The fact that the media is invited to this thing, but they're not allowed to talk about anything that they saw.
Right.
Like, I get, okay, hey, man, don't talk about the specific plays we're running. You know, don't talk about that kind of stuff. But, like, you can't even talk about, hey, man, the quarterback looked really good today. Or, you know, some positive things that you saw from practice. Or, you know, any of that kind. Like, you can't report on anything that you saw. That's ridiculous. That's crossing the line a little bit for me.
It is mind-boggling to me. Like, what's the purpose of even letting them in if those are going to be your stipulations?
Exactly.
You know, I guess it's some kind of olive branch. The fact that you've finally done it for the first time. But look, they won 3 games last year.
Right.
Exactly
correct.
And with a Heisman Trophy winner and his son, both sons, I guess, still playing. They
retired their jerseys
team a couple years ago, but what's the purpose in all the cloak and dagger? Like, I won't say everyone else, but the majority of coaches are at least allowing some access. Do you not want anyone talking about your program? What's the reason for all the secrecy? Like, that doesn't seem to be what Deion Sanders has been about over the course of his life. Like, he is he's not sort of, he has thrived in the spotlight. You're not giving your players any of that kind of opportunity. It's mind-boggling because the other side of this is you're putting limits on what the media can say, but you're also letting fans in to see this. Like, you control what fans are going to say once they go out, but you're putting limits on what the media can say.
So if a fan jumped on a podcast and just made it up and just, I decided to start a podcast today and they put out everything that they saw at practice, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I feel like the shine has come off of Deion to Colorado. He needs to be doing the opposite, in my opinion. You need to open up all of your practices. And like, isn't he the one that had the kids had like their social media handles on the back of their practice jerseys and stuff?
That's true. That's true.
If you don't allow media,
you're not going to allow the media in.
Who's going to see that?
Right.
Like, what's the point? I don't know. I feel like he's cutting off his nose despite his face on that one.
It feels like it to me as well. I don't get it. He's always so much to the beat of his own drum, but it makes zero sense. Just in this day and age, like, you need, and he's obviously always had that combative sort of attitude with the media. He wanted to control everything. Remember, like, a couple of years ago, it seems like it's a million years removed almost. Like, he's going into year 4 now at this point, but he wanted, like, the "do you believe?" Like when he was, like
when he remember when he did that to the reporter,
right? Yeah,
like, dude, that's not our job to believe.
Yeah, that's your job to believe. It's our job to report on what it actually is you believe in.
It's like, dude, Deion.
Makes no sense to me.
No, it makes no sense. Well, he's like done a complete 180 when it comes to how he operates with the media and how, that kind of stuff, like complete 180. And I don't understand it.
Tommy had this in early, and I forgot that I started up and had it in there. He asked if I saw the tweet that he sent about the white substance investigation in Cowboys Stadium. Yes, it was Tommy's attempt at
I saw that.
Yes, I did. I did see that. And Joe's also asking when we will have a season stat prediction.
Oh, boy.
Well, we're in the thick of training camp right now. So obviously the bulk of what we're talking about is going to be training camp related and, kind of around that as well. I think, either the week of the first game or
I think that Friday right beforehand, I think is
feels like a perfect time to do it. Right?
When I get to be wrong on every single thing that I say, I think that Friday is a perfect day for that.
I think you're right. I think you're right. That'll be going into into Labor Day weekend and the whole thing as well. So, all right, a lot of stuff coming out of training camp today. I tell you what, tomorrow, I think we're going to we haven't done a mailbag in a while, and since we're in the thick of training camp, I feel like we need a training camp mailbag.
Yes.
On the show. What do you say?
Bring it on, baby. Let's go.
So be here. Ask your questions pertaining to Notre Dame training camp. You can ask other stuff as well, but training camp stuff. That's the important stuff right now. So we'll do that on tomorrow's show, and of course we'll have rapid fire, plenty more. We'll probably sprinkle in some different comments from some different coaches since we've got to talk to so many so far. So we've got that coming up. Good stuff. Good times. All right, Vince. Enjoyed it as always. I will talk to you mañana. We'll talk to everybody else tomorrow as well. South Bend Cubs baseball is next. Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.